came for examples, and that's exactly, well, okay, wait. I promised, no, wait, no. You came for examples, I promised examples, and now I'm about to deliver these examples. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is negative feedback, because that's what I said I actually like talking about. So that's what we're going to do first, of course. And the first thing we're going to actually look at is thermoregulation. Now, staring you dead in the eye is the most horrific picture you've ever seen, filled with so many bubbles, so many arrows, so many pictures. You're just like, where do I even start? And I'm going to show you. The first place to start is always at the center, right? So let's take that in. When you're looking at a homeostatic chart or process thing, don't feast your eyes at trying to figure out where it began. Zero your attention to the very middle. Why? Because it's going to teach you what exactly is the body's zen. What is the body's natural equilibrium? That, my dear friends, that, my dear beautiful learners, can be found at the center of this lovely process. So we're learning, when we're talking about thermoregulation now, let's not be cray. We're talking about regulating the temperature of the body. Now, the perfect or the most accepted body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius, which is about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I don't mind. And then, but we do have a range. This says 35.6 degrees Celsius to 37.8 degrees Celsius. Other literature says 36.1 degrees Celsius all the way up to 37.9 degrees Celsius. To each his own. I don't know. It just depends. So that's ranging from a Fahrenheit point of view, about 97 degrees Fahrenheit to about, no, I feel like that's 96. I could be wrong. I'm not sure at this point. Now I actually don't know. We could be at 97. Okay, just to be safe, we're going to say 97 degrees Fahrenheit. We probably could go a little bit lower, but I'm not going to chance it and then I'm telling you rubbish. But just know it's because the optimal I said is 98.6. So, and that is your 37 degrees Celsius. So let's keep it at like a 97 all the way up to like a 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Because we know that once we step into the 38 degrees Celsius, we're moving into fever territory at 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit. You already messed up if you got it. I didn't say you messed up. You have a fever, so your body is fighting, okay? Don't be so hard on it. But you messed up. But okay, now let's see what happens if the body gets too hot. Now, if you can see over to your left side, and I hope you can see my cursor moving around like a jumpy person. So when the temperature goes up too high, now we have things like our thermoreceptors that we spoke about. Now, remember, we spoke about our receptors, our sensors. They're the ones that's going to pick up the change in the temperature of the body. So your thermoreceptors are going to be like, hey, wait. I'm feeling a little bit, I'm feeling a little bit warm, a little bit extra warm. And it's going to send that information to the brain, which is in the control center, more specifically the hypothalamus. And it's going to say, hey, listen, we're detecting that things are getting just a tiny bit steamy in the place. Can you cool us down? Thank you very much. The hypothalamus is going to be like, okay, no worries, broskis and siskis. I got you guys. And then the hypothalamus is going to send word to the blood vessels as well as the sweat glands. And what it's gonna tell each to do something totally different. But the task it tells both of them is going to work, though different, it's going to work together to complete one common goal, and that is to cool the body down. So it goes to the sweat glands and it says, hey, listen, sweat glands, and we can see depicted right here. Hey, sweat glands, what I need you to do is I need you to start to secrete something known as perspiration or sweat. So I need the sweat glands to release or to secrete sweat. Boom. I feel like that's pretty simple to remember. Sweat glands, sweat. It just makes sense. It just makes sense. So the sweat glands releases sweat. Now we do know that sweat does not stay internally. Sweat actually comes out and it's presented on top of the skin. And that is actually to our benefit, because when the water from our sweat evaporates from our skin, just like in the process of transpiration, and if you forgot about transpiration with plants, I totally understand and I don't fault you for it. Ignore this analogy, just please ignore it. But if you remember, just like that situation, and once the water evaporates or vaporizes and leaves the surface, it actually brings a cooling effect. So that is the whole purpose of sweating. And that's the whole purpose of transpiration. Just putting it in there. Do not hurt me. I just had to put it in because that's how I remember it. And then to the blood vessels, it actually tells it, okay, blood vessels, this is what I need you to do. I need you to dilate. Now, anytime you hear the term dilate or vasodilation, what's happening is that the blood vessels are going to expand and get bigger. And that's for good purpose, because the bigger the blood vessels get, the less pressure, and it's going to cause more blood to pool into that area. And the area we're talking about is the skin, is the beautiful skin. It's going to pool into the skin and exactly at the surface, and heat energy is going to be released. And that is how we lose some of that heat energy. And that eventually, or in turn, helps to bring the body temperature down and gets it back to equilibrium. Again, this is a negative feedback because we are reverting back to the equilibrium. But then you say to me, but suppose we get too cold, or let's say, for instance, the body just, in all that process of doing good, the body ends up getting too cold, or you walked into a meat freezer. I'm just saying it could happen. People walk into meat freezers all the time. Stop pretending like it's impossible. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's say you walked into a meat freezer. Boom. The temperature, the outside stimulus, the external stimulus or variable is now affecting your internals, because now your body temperature is dropping from 37 degrees Celsius, which is perfect, by the way. And it's dipping down to 36.8, 36.7. Okay, and we're dipping to a point where, yeah, listen, body, we need to do something. So the thermoreceptors pick it up and they're like, excuse me, sir, brain, we're getting a little bit too cold in this area, so we're gonna need you to heat things up. So the hypothalamus of the brain says, okay, I got you, broskies and siskies. It goes again and it tells the blood vessels to do something. And this time, it doesn't tell the sweat glands, it tells the muscles. So for the blood vessels, remember, when you're hot, it dilates. So this time it's going to do the opposite. It's going to actually constrict. And in its constriction, or it's getting narrow, it's going to prevent all that blood from pooling at the skin, and it prevents that heat transfer outside of the body into the atmosphere. So you're actually keeping in the heat, or you're trapping as much heat as possible. And then to the muscles, the brain says, listen, I want you to do a little tiny dance. I need you to relax and contract and relax and contract and and, I just had, okay, whatever. You didn't enjoy it. Well, I certainly enjoyed it. I enjoyed the beatbox for a little minute. So it relaxes and contracts and relaxes and contracts. And it almost provides a little dance for the skeletal muscles and for the muscle and whatever, all the other muscles we know we don't have. Only skeletal. And I should not have even brought up the type of muscle. We will learn all about muscles when it's time to learn, but just know the muscles do a little dance, and that creates energy, heat energy, and that kind of helps to build the heat up in the body and eventually raise the temperature. So now you're going back to equilibrium. So again, even in this case, when the body temperature drops, it's still negative feedback because we're moving from variation back to the variable, or sorry, from variation back to the equilibrium.